everybody. Welcome to C3 Films. I am Cheryl, and this is.
Chris.
And today we're going to be doing It Wasn't That Good on a little movie called Mulan 2020. So, just want to let you guys know spoiler alert for this movie, but also the 1998 version of it, because we are probably going to bring in the old movie a little bit when we're talking about the latest one. So, Chris, I'm really interested to know what you think about it. Because a little secret I have was I didn't think it was that bad.
So the movie isn't a train wreck. I don't think the movie is that bad from just a standpoint of being a movie where things happen and you have people that pass as characters. Um, but like it does have problems. And I think the biggest problems that you'll face when watching the movie are the problems of you thinking about the fact that there's another version of this movie out there that essentially is, you could argue, is a better paced and just more fun film. Um, but that being said, what is this movie trying to do? Is this movie trying to be fun? Maybe it's not. It's a war epic movie. So that I think if we just try to look at it from that way, then we can explore how this movie tells the story of this character being Hua Mulan, and if that story is told in a credible and believable way with the elements that are there. But like, what did you think about it? You said you didn't think it was that bad, but like, let's talk about some of the things that you did like, and then I'll start talking about some of the things I like that might have bothered me or things I like too.
I definitely felt that I didn't like the element of chi that they used to turn Mulan into some kind of supernatural, super powerful, possible witch. And that goes hand in hand with having the actual witch who doesn't really exist anywhere except for this movie. If you think about the origin of the story of Mulan, it being a legend slash folk story slash possible history, no one really knows.
Right.
Um, that person doesn't exist. There definitely was a war or a battle between China and the what are they called, the Rogals, Rog-
The
Rorans,
Mongols.
the Rorans,
Oh, Rorans.
um, and the person named Bori Khan isn't really a real person either. I think not really sure about Bori Khan, but the the cons are definitely associated with the Rorans. So that stuff makes sense to me. But this witch person is definitely made up, and it brings in this whole extra element that kind of turns Mulan's character into another one of those characters that don't have any flaws. And she's
Yeah.
just too powerful, and it's hard to give her room to grow. No, that's not to
Right.
say that she didn't have anything like for her character to have to overcome, in a sense, having the opportunity to grow in that way, but in terms of everything else and strength and battling, her physical battling is there's there's just nothing really there for her to like get stronger in.
Yeah. Essentially, what she has to get over is the fact that she's better than everyone else. That's her struggle. The fact that she's better than everyone else and she has to hide it. And like, essentially, at the end of the day, that's what they're saying. You're strong, you're good, you're stronger than most people, but because you're a woman, you can't show this. And so, and like, at on paper that can work, but at the same time, when you really break it down, and that is the biggest struggle that you have to deal with, is the fact that acknowledging that you are just that much better than all the people that are around you, that's not something that's very relatable. If you're talking about trying to make a character that people can relate to, get behind, and cheer for. And I I really didn't like that aspect of the whole chi thing in this movie, but I could have. And when when she's training, when she first goes to the war camp and she's training and you see her struggling, and I think, okay, this is good. They're showing her struggle. They're showing that she can get better. And then when she's doing the spear fight, you realize that she's not struggling because it's hard. She's struggling because she's trying not to show who she really is. And then it's like, okay, so you're not good because you're getting better or you're learning or you're improving. You're getting better. You're getting better because you're just already that good. And so really pivotal moments that you're supposed to be wanting to root and cheer for the character for like them overcoming this obstacle, like them lifting the water in the pails and making it to the top of the mountain, it falls flat because you realize she's not doing it because she's overcome some type of physical like challenge or found some way to like solve the problem, which we'll get into later for more of the 1998 Mulan. Um, she's doing it because she just has chi, and because she has this and you don't, she can do this and you can't. And what kind of message is that at the end of the day for a main character to have?
Right. And that's one of the things that I wish they just took out. Like they didn't need the chi. They didn't need the witch. And I think what would have been really great is for it to be actually closer to the 1998 film where she does grow physically. She does have to learn how to fight and stuff, but also have that focus on her being smart and using wit to be her greatest ally and not have everything be about strength. Especially when, there is a lot, I would say there's a lot less focus on her issue having to hide her strength and more
Sure.
of an issue of the challenges of being a woman in that time period. Because she does have to deal with having to be forced to live a life that she doesn't want to live. And in a sense, she's looking for her place in life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I wish that they focused on that more and her physical strength growing alongside that would have been a much better and compelling story. Like they didn't need the witch at all. It was just weird to have her. It was weird to have this magical element. And I mean, it was nice to have more female presence in the movie and having like women be powerful in the movie, but it kind of like crowds the storytelling because then you have two villains and apparently everyone knows how to catch an arrow except for the witch.
It's one of my notes. Like the witch. We did a spoiler alert, right? I think we did a spoiler alert.
Yeah, we did.
The witch, the witch getting shot with the arrow. Literally, I felt nothing because, and this is the problem when you make your character too strong. Like I just thought, oh, he's shooting an arrow at Mulan. She's just gonna catch it, or she'll kick it out of the air. Which, by the way, the physics of that spear, where she kicked it out of the air and then landed on her horse and then kicked it again, like that is not how physics work. That was the one part of the movie I was just like, okay, I've seen a lot of like wire fu and
Mm-hmm.
crazy stuff, but that moment right there, I was like, okay, that was a little much, guys.
I was,
That's not how.
that kind of stuff I was fine with because, like you said, wire fu. I've never heard that phrase before. But that is something that, like, a lot of Asian films like to do is, like, people running up the wall and, they, like, basically can fly and then, like, their sleeves become, like, an extension of their arms and stuff like that. That's totally Asian filmmaking. That happens all the time. So I would forgive the breaking of the laws of physics. That's fine with like if it, at least they're consistently doing it and they're not just making it like this
Breaking
one
the law.
moment where like the defining moment of her being awesome. So plus there's magic.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I guess at that point, then why not? But yes, I was never worried about Mulan, as I think was is the point that I'm leading to is the fact that because she is so shown to be so powerful in the movie, when the main villain is shooting an arrow at her, I'm not actually thinking that he's going to hit her. Like Mulan doesn't take Mulan doesn't take damage in this movie.
Hmm.
She just doesn't. And because she doesn't take damage once, I have no reason to believe that she's ever in danger. So that death felt very contrived to me. Like, we need to kill this witch, and this is the best way to do it. But the reason the witch exists in this movie from a storytelling standpoint is because it's supposed to be a mirror to what Mulan could become. Because this witch is somebody else that has a lot of chi like Mulan, is super powerful like Mulan, but because she chose a different way to go in life, she ended up as this villain in this predicament or this antagonist in this predicament. And it's like you could be this Mulan, but because you chose to go in another direction, now you can be opposites. But that's literally the only reason that she's there. She's just there as to serve as a mirror to what our main character could become.
Her reflection.
It's not who she is inside.
But yeah, I mean, like, aside from that, there were a lot of other. I feel like as the story progressed, the more problems I was finding. Like, for example, when they do find out that she's a female, well, first of all, she just suddenly had an encounter with the witch and then decides, yeah, I think I'm just gonna reveal myself, because I had this conversation with this person I've never met before, and and then she gets, booted, and they're like, well, if you, we'll let you live, but if you come back, then we'll kill you. And then she says, well, I would rather die. So she just go back, and then they'll kill her. But no, she does leave, and then she finds out stuff, and then she goes back, and she tells the commander, and the commander's like, "Okay, you can lead my army then."
Yes, it feels it feels very arbitrary. And that's the thing. It's so hard to talk about this movie without comparing it because the way they handle it in the 1998 version, it feels a lot smarter because even the whole reason she goes back is because once again an enemy tells her some information and she assumes that it's true. Whereas in the 1998 version, she sees it for herself. And so she knows that it's true. And she knows the urgency of the situation because of that. And that is just a little bit more powerful than hearing it secondhand from somebody who actually has reason to lie to you.
I definitely
So,
feel like
yeah.
the 2020 version decided to, like, pick up bits and pieces of scenes and things that happened in the 1998 version and put it into the new movie, but executed it poorly. For example, Sean Yu in 1998 had his hawk, and I think that's supposed to be the witch. So they just, like,
Yeah.
changed it into something. And then there's also, the whole execution of the scene that we're talking about right now with the avalanche.
Yeah.
That whole thing that leads to her revelation was done completely different, but it was based on scenes from the 1998 version, but it was just done so poorly.
It's also done poorly because it doesn't it feels out of place because like we said the story focuses more on her chi and not on her intelligence, and because that's the case we constantly see parts in the story that are based on how powerful she is, and that's the thing that we're supposed to like get behind and recognize whenever we see her in these situations. That's what's established as being the through line of how she's going to survive in the future. But then all of a sudden in this one moment in this story, she is now utilizing her intelligence to outsmart the enemy, but then it never comes back where she does things like that again for the rest of the movie. Then the rest of the movie is all about her chi and how good she is at fighting, and so that's why it stands out because It's not a payoff like in the 1998 version where you constantly see moments of Mulan using her intelligence to solve problems. And so now all of a sudden, when we get to this big moment where she uses her intelligence to wipe out an army, it feels earned. But it didn't feel earned here because there was nothing leading up to it.
I mean, otherwise, the I guess there aren't that many good things I could say about it. Besides, I do like that they decided to, for the most part, take the story and try to make it their own, as opposed to
Agreed.
just duplicating the old movie. Although they did try
Right.
to throw in things in there to, I guess for fan pleasing to put in there so that we're like, oh yeah, like the music, and they stole lines from songs and stuff like that. The
Yes.
other thing I kind of appreciated was that they took the time to have a scene of, or a couple of scenes of her when she's younger, to establish the relationship that she has with her parents and their parents' view on her upbringing and her personality, so to say. And I think it also gives a good establishment to her responsibility as a female.
Yeah. So I think that it does that, but in doing that, it actually loses the emotional connection with her family. So basically, it establishes her in opposition to her family. It shows that her family believes one thing and they're trying to force her to be something she's not. And so you believe that they love each other because they're family, but not because of anything else that we see or that we show. And once again, I got to bring up the 1998 version, where after Mulan fails the matchmaking thing and she sits down next to her father, the conversation isn't about Mulan failing and not knowing her place. The conversation is about Mulan's father just trying to make her feel better. And he doesn't even bring up the matchmaking thing at all. And so now in this moment, we can see that the father and the daughter have this connection with each other that's based in true love and care rather than duty. But when we see this flashback of when she's a child and he's talking to her about the phoenix, the entire conversation is about you need to know your place, and this is and like you will be you're going to be married one day, and you're this is your point, you're this is to be you this is how you'll bring honor to us. And so now all of a sudden it paints the father as just someone that's only focus is this as opposed to a loving relationship with his daughter. So I actually kind of have a little bit of a problem with that.
So I guess the reason why I probably enjoyed that more is because I felt it was more relatable. Um, Perhaps part of it has to do with the target audience being different, but I felt like it was just more relatable because I could see the struggle that the father has, like being happy with who she is, but also having to realize that in reality for that time period it ultimately wouldn't lead her to have a successful life. So
Sure.
they both kind of have to not be happy with the way things are. But that kind of hits home to me because that isn't just similar for things in the past, but it's kind of similar for things now where like you have to go to school and you have to learn the things that you have to learn, and you have to go through the walks of life and stuff like that. And sometimes parents have to be controlling, or they just are controlling. Sometimes, they'll be a little bit more on the understanding side, like the father, but sometimes they'll be more of the strict, like, this is how things are, like the mother. So
Right.
I think seeing that dynamic was actually a lot nicer where there wasn't a lot of family time in the original cartoon.
No, I can see that. And I think for me, the only thing I would have liked to see, because if you have the mother or the character like the mother, like in other movies, normally they're not, even if it's realistic, they're not posed as being likable. They're not posed as being like the people that are part of your family. And I think for me, I would have just wanted to see both those elements because I think that element that you're talking about is absolutely important because it is realistic. And I also think that it's realistic that the father could want a different life for his daughter, but accept that this is the only life that you can have. And I think that's I wanted to see more of that so that when we get to the end of the movie where he's standing across from her and he says, the fact that you're my daughter and you're here, that's all I care about, to make that feel more real. Because if that isn't the important thing, then when she gets back at the end, it's about the fact that you dishonored me. Because that's what we're about, right? We're about like your place and honor and making sure that we keep that we keep in line with that. And no matter what you did, the fact is you still did lie, you stole my armor, and you dishonored me by not letting me fight in this war. You know what I mean? But he's more than that.
Right. I mean, there were a lot of other little problems that we could pick at and stuff. I think the only other big thing for me was the pesky voiceovers
It comes out of
done
nowhere.
in poor taste.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. Like but you don't like voiceovers though.
I don't like no, I honestly I don't like voiceovers almost all of the time. I think it would have been fine if he had the voiceover at the beginning and then had a voiceover at the end. But then in the middle of the movie, on two counts, he just suddenly said something that we were seeing, so it wasn't necessary. It was
Right,
expositional voiceover, and that's the worst kind of voiceover, especially when they are like actually showing you what he's saying. And the fact that it only happens twice in the middle of the movie is
right.
even
Yes.
worse, because then it's just kind of like, oh, you're watching the movie and like it's like fine, and all of a sudden this voice comes out of nowhere to explain something to you that you're actually just seeing yourself, and then it's like, okay, well, I was just thrown out of the movie and now I have to get back into it. And it happens twice.
Yeah. And then it comes back at the end, and it's one of those things of like, you don't need to end by telling us that she becomes a legend because clearly she does. Here's a movie about this character. That's the reason we're here. So yeah, I think, and the last thing for me was that like I was saying earlier, I can get behind the chi thing if there's actual like uh if she actually has to learn how to use it properly. And part of me was getting excited when the General Donnie Yen is like, I can recognize you have a lot of chi because I have a lot of chi, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna like show you how to use your chi properly. And I was getting excited because I'm like, okay, yeah, this is good because she wouldn't know how to use her chi. She hasn't been using it, but then they don't do anything with it. And I guess where I fall at the end of the day with that is that even Superman had to learn how to fly.
Yeah. I did love the cast. The cast was
Yes.
awesome. I love Donnie Yen. I think oh, I was really surprised to see Jimmy Wong, who played I think Ling, I think is his name, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, there were a lot of funny moments, so I did enjoy it. It just the ending, and there were just problems, but I still had an okay time watching it. It was not as bad as I was led to believe. So
Right. I like seeing Ming Na Wen at the end of the movie.
what?
I like seeing Ming Na Wen at the end of the movie.
Oh yeah, that was for the fans.
Yeah, I'm like this is only for the fans, but if you're gonna give her a cameo, this feels fine. Um, so yeah, I I don't think the movie was the train wreck that I was expecting it to be. Uh, at the same time, I think that if in order to enjoy this movie the most, you have to go into it without the baggage of the 1998 film because they are two different movies. And if you go in thinking about the 1998 film, I think that you won't have as much fun because of the fact that they are two very different movies.
They are very, very different. So I like going into it with an open mind is the best thing you can do, because they are. It's not like the remakes of the other animated movies, where they almost follow it to a T, and they only like change a little bit or add things. This is a totally different take on Mulan. And the 1998 version of Mulan is not the first version. That's just another version. There have been many versions of that story. And one could argue that that movie has mistakes in it too because of it not being the same as a previous version. So definitely if you watch it, go into it with it an open mind. Like watch it again and think about it as not a Disney remake, but another version of Mulan
Right.
with some crazy
Yeah.
chi. So
Yeah. No. Absolutely. So, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up before we close out here?
no, I think I hit all the important things.
Yeah. All right. So this is going to be a two-part thing. We're also going to do an open discussion for this, so be on the lookout for that. But did you see the 2020 Mulan? What did you guys think about it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? But whatever you guys thought, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe. But even if you don't, though, I've been Chris, and this has been.
Cheryl, and we will see you guys next time.